This past week of headlines has caused me to question whether we're actually in a simulation. So, long story short, it appears now that there may have actually been a second shooter involved in JFK's assassination. The Gulf of Mexico has been renamed for no apparent reason. The Elder Scrolls 6 will apparently not release on the PlayStation, if it ever releases at all. And for my bodybuilding brothers and sisters, it appears we will not be able to get cheap eggs anytime soon. Now, exciting stuff first. Remember what I said a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about the inauguration? I would not be surprised if we find out from Trump that the feds actually killed Kennedy back in '63. This is apparently confirmed by Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. She's basically been diving into a couple of thousand documents that have been declassified by the FBI to go through and see what sort of information on the assassination we can dig up. The elephant in the room of this story being that the FBI just happened to have a couple thousand documents that they needed to find, in their own archives. And we just have to assume that they're giving us the completely unadulterated versions of these documents. Imagine that. To be honest, I first saw this headline on YouTube a couple days ago, and the thing that struck me was alright, first off, if this was actually as big of a bombshell of a headline as they're saying it's gonna be, we would see it it would be international news at this point. And the reason why it's not is because it's just what the Congresswoman said she thinks is contained within these documents. So, once they're finally all released, hopefully in the public domain so we can all read them for ourselves, we'll be able to judge truly what... I don't know. I just think that for her to say that and just not provide any circumstantial or reasons as to why she may feel that way, do we know anything about the second shooter other than Oswald? That would be kind of interesting, but she just says, oh yeah, there might be a second shooter. I, for one, am most excited to see what the identity of the second shooter will be if he is ever revealed, because I have my sneaking suspicions as to who it is. That's right, it is entirely possible that Treyarch got it right 14 years ago. Wait, 14 years ago? Wait, hang on. Black Ops 1. 15 years ago. Oh my god. But yes, I don't think we're gonna see anything really substantial about the identity of the second shooter. That may be something that the FBI chooses to keep confidential forever. The only reason I can possibly think of not wanting to expose the identity of the second shooter is that he was bought and paid for by the FBI and the CIA. Though something tells me about Trump and his administration's whole attitude towards the deep state and the federal government is that if it was an FBI or CIA hack, that's all the more reason as to why they would expose his identity. So yeah, despite people like Patrick Bet-David talking about how now it's definitive that we know there were two shooters, the reality is, I guess Trump's people that he's appointed to look through these documents, they're still combing through all of it. We're not going to get a clear picture for maybe a couple of days or weeks, so let's just take the bits of information as they come. It may be indicative of something greater that we have yet to learn. I'm just not really one to buy into sensationalism. I think that if it was truly as big of a discovery as they want us to believe, the entire world would be reporting on this. That's my thought. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gulf of America. I'm a believer that language can change, so, people go from calling the people that were the Vikings, they weren't always called the Vikings, they would just be these Norsemen that would go a Viking or on a Viking, and so now we call them Vikings. So language can change, I'm not saying that it can't. This is one thing where it's if you're telling me now that the federal government has officially appointed the body of water off the coast of Florida in the South United States as the Gulf of America, as long as I'm not going to jail for calling it the Gulf of Mexico, I think we're fine. When I made that inauguration video, I always felt that, Trump's not going to be that petty to, let's say, threaten to buy Canada and Greenland, right? Trump's not going to be that petty to buy back the Panama Canal, though maybe he may have his reasons for buying something back if the country wants to sell it. Changing the name of the Gulf of America to the Gulf of Mexico. To be fair, our shoreline, the one that encompasses Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, it is longer than the Mexican, Central American coastline for the Gulf of Mexico. Do you really think that Latin America is going to suddenly go from calling it El Golfo de Mexico to El Golfo de America? Seriously? In the same way that you may have certain countries who don't want to be called a certain name on the world stage. Like India, I think for a while wanted to actually go back to being called Bharat, which is the native Hindi name. call yourself whatever you want. It doesn't mean that we have to call you that. And just because good old Donald tells me that now it's the Gulf of America, I'm like, I was raised to call it the Gulf of Mexico in school. It's still the Gulf of Mexico. This is the type of thing where like what is he gonna do now? Is New Mexico just gonna go to be called, I don't know, New Texas, New Arizona? There's a very weird form of like kind of tribalistic, hype that goes around like anything that's like rechristened America. So we're just gonna plant an American flag taller than every other flag in every embassy, and like it's just, I don't know. Listen, I love this country, I do, but like, to just go around and just thinking that we're just going to rename something the Gulf of America and this is automatically the greatest thing that has ever happened under a president for any administration, I just think is stupid. And I do think it's petty, but at the same time, I don't really care. It's about as meaningless as if, like, let's say Joe Biden or Barack Obama had made the nation's national dessert to be apple pie. I mean, like, it's symbolically the national dessert, but like not officially, so it is kind of meaningless. In the same way that, like, I'm not really gonna care just because it's now called the Gulf of America officially. You can also unofficially still call it the Gulf of Mexico. Just saying. But to be so petty as to have one of your top agenda items be to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, I have no words. Quite a bit of a shock to see that the White House press secretary was kicking people out for refusing to use the term Gulf of America. We have official words for all sorts of things, and we don't really kick people out for not using them. Anyway, I don't want to get into politics, so let's just move on to Elder Scrolls 6. Yes, my brothers and sisters, after 14 years, we still don't really have anything substantial about the Elder Scrolls 6, its setting, its plot. But unfortunately, we have news about what platforms it's going to be on, and unfortunately, as maybe some people saw, it is not coming out for the PlayStation. Quick disclaimer, I did not realize that this whole idea of the Elder Scrolls 6 not being released for the PlayStation is a whole myth. I recorded this right after I saw a short suggesting that it wasn't going to come out for the PS5. I didn't bother to do any further research. That's on me. Anyways, on with the show. I struggle to understand why this is the case. I mean, we know that Doom: The Dark Ages is going to be coming out for PlayStation. I just think it is such a tragedy that you're going to have so many people that now have to buy a new console or a PC to play a game that at least we've been waiting for since the trailer for now 8 years. And then on top of that, we're told that we have to wait another year to finally return to Tamriel. So think about it like this. I want you to picture this for a second because this is important. In 2011, we got Skyrim. In 2013, we got GTA 5. Now, this year, 2025, it looks like we're going to be getting GTA 6. And we're not going to be getting the Elder Scrolls 6 until at least 2026. The moral of the story is this. If any GTA fanboy ever tells you how excruciating the wait has been for GTA 6, tell him he's an amateur. We have got 2 GTA games in between 2 Elder Scrolls titles. I don't want to hear anything about it. Like, it is quite surprising to me that the meme has always been, we got X and Y before GTA 6. Bitch, what about the Elder Scrolls 6? I think it's probably going to be the most anticipated game of this entire decade. It's probably my most anticipated game over the past 10 to 15 years. The last game that I anticipated this much was probably Halo 4 or 5, and that was about it. And that was way back in the day when I was still in my Halo phase. I really think that Bethesda, and I've said this before, Bethesda has some of the most talented world builders, writers, composers, and game designers in the entire industry. I know that they're going to develop. I know that Howard's going to deliver on what he's promised the game is going to be. I think he even talked with Lex Friedman about when the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come out, and he's talking about all the new sorts of technology that's going to be pioneered for this game, probably a lot of use of generative AI, which would be pretty interesting. I'm so excited. I'm going to be streaming that game like for an entire week, an entire month. I'm going to pre-order the most premium, the most legendary version of this game with all of like the bells and whistles and like the crappy little, posters you can put in your room. I am so excited for the Elder Scrolls 6. I've said this before, I think Skyrim is the greatest, most fun video game ever made. I still feel that way. I've spent more time playing Skyrim than I think I've spent playing any other game in my life. And I really feel bad for people that are really like PlayStation fanboys that have played like the Elder Scrolls games on PlayStation all the time, like Skyrim and Oblivion. I just think it's a real downer. And then on top of that, we have to wait another year, and we just don't have any details, like nothing, not even the setting. Just give us the province, Todd. Orsinium, Hammerfell, Valenwood. The trailer kind of hinted that maybe we're going to see some sort of island setting like the Shimmering Isles. Hell, I'd be cool with the setting in Akavir. I don't really care. But just some details. Is it that hard? I can't, guys. It's been so long. But I mean, the good news is that at least we're getting an Elder Scrolls 6. I feel bad for those people who've been waiting for Half-Life 3 for over 20 years now. For those of you who have been lifelong Half-Life fans, comment down below. Have you felt betrayed by Valve, or have you just accepted that you're probably not going to get any sort of sequel to one of the most beloved story-based first-person shooters of the early 2000s? At least, safe to say, I'm good, because I'm going to have my PC running an RTX 5090 once I get the money for it, and I'll be able to play the Elder Scrolls 6 in like top settings, like the highest conceivable settings, benchmarks that would make any other person's PC bleed and melt. Anyway, aside from that, last strange topic of the day, eggs. So I eat a lot of eggs, about 2 a day. I soft boil them. If you've never had soft boiled eggs, trust me, they're life-changing. You put them in a soy sauce marinade, it's great. I didn't really notice that the egg prices had actually gone up. I think I went to ShopRite like about a week or so ago, and I paid like, I guess $7 for like a dozen jumbo eggs. Like, not the small ones, like the really big ones. And I thought that's pretty, you know, I was pretty used to it. Like, when I was in college, I would spend about $5 or $6 for like a dozen eggs. And that was kind of at like the not cheap grocery store because it was like close by. And so I could go to Walmart and get like a bunch of eggs for cheaper, but I didn't. Some people are saying that it's because of the bird flu. And then some people are rightfully pointing out that if we had a problem with the bird flu, a lot of, you know, farmers' chickens and free-range chickens would be getting sick, but they're not. People who own chickens, they're birds, they're not getting the bird flu at all. It does seem to be the result of price gouging, which of course I hate. I almost wonder if this was a play on the idea that the whole thing that Trump said when he would get back in office was that, oh, the price of eggs is going to be cheaper and groceries are going to be cheaper, so I guess maybe some companies decided to raise the price to spite him? That's just a wacky theory. I don't really believe it that much either. I just found like kind of the serendipity of it to be kind of neat. People saying, you know, oh, get Trump and, you know, free eggs or, you know, cheaper eggs, and then egg prices go up. But I just didn't really notice the price in eggs go up, so I wasn't really affected by it. But I mean, if you've been affected by it, do you own chickens? Do you eat eggs on the regular? Let me know down in the comments below. At this point, I'm thinking about using my wood shop to build a chicken coop in the back of the house and start buying a couple of hens. It is true though, like a lot of people, friends of mine who own chickens, are able to have fresh eggs every day, and I'm like, wow, that'd be amazing, especially when you can sort of calibrate the nutrient density of the eggs because of what you feed the chickens. That's gotta be awesome. Let me know down below, do you own chickens? Do you eat eggs regularly? Are you a vegetarian? In which case, you don't have to worry about this. That's all I got for this week. Those are my thoughts of the biggest headlines. Oh, that reminds me. Borderlands 4, the trailer just dropped recently, so I'm going to be reacting to that some other time this week. Keep an eye out for that video. And other than that, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching, Mavenites. I'll see you next week.